back to this special edition of Talking Sports at Work. I know I haven't been around in a while, and I apologize for that. But there are lots of reasons for it. But what matters is I am here today. We are back together. And yeah, lots of changes coming in my personal life. It's the official end of football coming up this weekend. So I had to do at least one more special episode, Super Bowl betting episode, as well as lots of other stuff to discuss that's happened while we haven't had a chance to talk. So we will dive into Luka being a Laker, Dalton Knecht no longer being a Laker for some injury-riddled big that I've never heard of. We will dive into the Vols recruiting and signing day, which, well, I guess there's not really that much new to talk about there. But we will talk about the Titans and what they should do with that number one pick, as well as plenty of other topics. But first and foremost, we want to talk about the big one, the Super Bowl, obviously. Um, and one of the many changes that have happened recently in my life and that are coming. I'm going to go ahead and turn some music off. Um, is the loss of income now with football season being effectively over because, as listeners know, we've been doing really well on betting, and so that's another reason. That's the main reason why I wanted to do this special episode today, and at least give some of my thoughts on what to expect and what bets I like for Super Bowl licks, as Gronk says on that commercial. And yeah, so we will dive into all of that as well as, we'll go over, I don't know, some of my personal life because I can't do this without diving into all that. It's just, I don't know, this is therapeutic for me and I haven't done it for a while. So we'll have lots to talk about. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be right back. All righty, friends, welcome back. So just some updates going on here, lots of changes, as I mentioned. And one of the changes, one of the reasons why we haven't done an episode in a while is because they installed these cameras in our vans that were not there before. But then I found out that apparently the cameras are really only recording or are really only there, excuse me, if there's like an event, like an accident or something happens. So otherwise, it's not a big deal. Oh, shit. Speaking of accidents, there is something happening on the highway ahead of me that's going to slow me down. Yeah, bear with me just a moment while I figure out what to do with whatever this is ahead of me. Um, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna take another quick break and I'll be right. Okay, hey friends, sorry about that. I'm still not entirely sure what was happening back there, but there were three cop cars with their lights on the side of the road, and it looked like something. I still don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, lots of changes. One of the biggest changes is that coming in the next few months, they are going to be closing our station, so I will not have this job. Now, for those of you who know me or are longtime listeners, you'll know that this is something that we knew was a possibility that at some point something like this was going to be coming. But we just didn't know when. Um, and we really didn't know what or when. We only knew that there were going to be changes coming that could include the closing of our station, that could include some routes being cut, some jobs being lost. We just knew that big changes were coming because the company itself is having a very, very big change. Um, and so we found out this past week that they are going to be closing on, or we uh, at the end of June. Now, the silver linings for me personally there are that it does give me more time than I was afraid because I had heard in the past that when they closed stations, they were given 2 months notice basically, whereas we are going to be getting closer to almost 5 months if they stick to what they said, which I do not trust them. But if anything, I think it'll probably be delayed because things that they've tried to do never go as smoothly as they expect. And there are lots of other reasons why I think that's the case. But as of now, they're saying it will be July 1st, the end of June. That's the end. Um, Now, the good news for me personally is I've been hoping all along that if I can at least keep this job until I get this degree, I will be okay. And that will be the case. In I believe May or June, I will have my creative writing degree, and that should open up some new opportunities for me, about which I am very excited for the possibilities that that will bring. It also, like I said, it's just longer than I was, afraid. It gives more time to prepare and plan and find what's going to be the next chapter. And then also on top of that, we have been told that when this happened, that you may be able to find another opportunity at another station, or some other job within the company. That does not appear to realistically be the case, at least for me. It sounds like there are only going to be a handful of people that will get any opportunities to really continue with the company. And I work with, just in my little station, several people who have 10, 12, 15, some 20 years with the company. So they're the ones who are going to get those opportunities. And that's good, because honestly, I it's a bigger deal to them than it is to me. I've always known that this was going to be temporary, whether it was me voluntarily leaving because I, was ready to start the next chapter, or because of something like this. I always knew that I was going to move on to something, bigger and better things, hopefully. But for most of the people I work with, this is their careers. So I'm glad that those opportunities will be out there for at least some people. Um, Anyway, I know none of this that I've talked about so far has really been sports based, but I'm just trying to give some updates on what's going on and what the future will hold. Um, so the future of the podcast is, yeah, we'll continue to do it, and still do the YouTube stuff, especially. We haven't been doing that as much lately. It just hasn't been as much of a priority, and with football being pretty much over since for over a month now, it's not there's not that much to talk about. But I have been getting a lot more into basketball lately, and part of that is because I'm trying to get to where I feel confident enough in it that I can make some money off of it the way I have on football. But it's also just because a lot of interesting stuff's been happening in basketball. You guys know I am a leftover Kobe fan, so I'm still a Laker fan. I was a huge, huge, huge Kobe Bryant fan when I was younger, when I was a kid. And so now I'm like 50-50 Lakers and Grizzlies, pretty much. Those are my two teams. And some those two teams are looking great right now, and a lot to talk about there. But anyway, so we just haven't been doing the podcast as much. Eventually, I will hopefully get back to it, or maybe just sort of transfer my efforts into the next podcast, which I've talked about, which is going to be the short story stuff. But it's just been so chaotic lately. I thought things were going to slow down once Christmas and birthday season was over for me, but in fact, things have just been as crazy. So anyway, those are the personal updates in my life. Big changes coming. But we've got some games to talk about, and I haven't. I've only made a couple of small bets so far, but I usually tend to wait until the day of the games, so I can take advantage of any promos that the various apps I use are running. And they usually don't put those on there until the day of, sometimes the day before. Um, and plus, in this case, I've kind of been hoping that the line would move a little bit, and it seems like it has slightly in the Eagles' favor. And so I may go ahead and jump on that later today, but I'm just going to keep an eye on that. Right now, it's almost a toss up. I mean, it's got the Eagles as a 1 point underdog. It's got the Chiefs as a 1 point favorite and minus 120 money line. So either way, it's pretty much a toss up. But yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about. I've got some player props that I like. I've got the spread bet that I like. I haven't really put together a parlay yet, just because, like I said, I haven't put any bets. I haven't put any big bets down just yet. But we'll dive into some of that and give you guys my thoughts, and hopefully we can make some money. I'm going to take another quick break, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, friends, welcome back. So, just first things first, I'm taking the Chiefs to win this one. I know that the popular opinion is everyone has sort of turned against them and is sick of them winning, and the majority of fans it feels like are rooting for the Eagles, and that's why I'm hoping that that line will move more in the Eagles' favor. But look, I have had the same philosophy for the last few years now, and it is never bet against the Chiefs, especially in big games. And that simple philosophy has made me a good bit of money. Um, I think they are going to win this one. I think they are going to three-peat. I think they have everything that they need to win a championship. I think this team is actually probably better than last year's team. Um, and so, yeah, I see the Chiefs pulling this one out. I mean, I'm not going to bet against if it's a close game and you give the ball to Patrick Mahomes, which you're going to have to at some point, in the fourth quarter. Well, that's pretty much it. Um, and it's not Josh Allen on the other side. It's uh, it's a run first, run heavy offense with a quarterback who is very good, but is not known to be an elite, pocket passer or playmaker or, the level of guys like Mahomes and Allen. So if this is a close game late, which, most people I think expect it to be, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Now, the one thing that would have me a little bit worried is the Chiefs defense, which has been elite for the last couple of years, really. What they really make their money on is the pressure, and that might be I don't want to say neutralized, but it's not going to be quite as big of a factor with the Eagles, who have not only this elite offensive line, but probably aren't going to put themselves in a lot of third and long situations. So it's really going to come down to, can Spagnola and this defense really adjust enough to stopping the run first and not being so heavily reliant upon the exotic blitzes that they use to, get after the quarterback on these obvious passing situations that the Eagles just are not likely to face many of unless the Chiefs defense can adjust properly and put them in those situations. And I think that they will be able to. I mean, Spagnuolo has proven over and over again he is probably the best defensive coordinator in the sport. And they've got a talent, they've got a ton of talent on that defense. I think they will be able to adjust accordingly. I'm not saying they'll be able to completely stop the Eagles run game, but I think they will be able to do enough that it's going to end up in Mahomes' hands in the end. And that's the game. Um, so that's basically my logic on or the general overview. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but that's my basic logic on taking the Chiefs. It's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey. I know has been a shell of himself for most of the season, but in the playoffs he's stepped it up when he's needed. And Xavier Worthy has really been coming on strong. And what's really impressed me the most is how they have utilized so many different guys. It's been Worthy, it's been Juju, it's been Hopkins, it's been Kareem Hunt, it's been Pacheco, it's been Kelsey. I mean, they've got so many good players that an elite quarterback, one of, if not the best we've ever seen, knows how to take advantage of these guys' skill sets. And one of them's going to get open, one of them's going to make a play. And that's going to be the case in this game as well. They've got a lot of good players. Now, that offensive line is a bit of a concern at the left tackle spot. I assume they're going to put Joe Tooney there, and he's done a very good job. But that's also going to create a bit of a hole. I don't know who they're going to be having play left guard, but against that Eagles front with Jalen Carter and all the rest of the elite guys they have on that line, that could cause some problems for the Chiefs. And so I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% certain the Chiefs are going to three-peat by any stretch, but that's where my money's going. Um, and with all that being said, I looked at some player props. Isaiah Pacheco's number for rushing yards is 19 and a half. And I get that Kareem Hunt has really been coming on strong for the last several weeks, and has almost become the number one running back. I think it's still more Pacheco on early downs, but And I actually do have Kareem Hunt as I put, one first touchdown scorer bet, and I have it as Kareem Hunt. Um, and I'll probably put a couple more of those on a couple different guys. But I do expect Kareem Hunt to have a big game, and I actually went looking at first for his number, and it was a little higher. It was for passing and receiving yards, it was like 45. Now, I do still think that that's a decent number to take. I would probably take Kareem Hunt over 45 passing and receive or rushing and receiving, but to think that Pacheco is only going to have less than 20 yards in this game, in a game that, is probably going to be a lot about trying to control the ball and the pace and all that. I think Pacheco is going to have a much bigger game than 20 yards. And now I'm not saying he's going over 100, but I don't see any reason why he couldn't get 50 in this one. Um, so I'm definitely putting some money on that Pacheco number. Um, Excuse me, and I'll also probably take Kareem Hunt as well if I'm right about that number, 45. And then I think Patrick Mahomes' number was 250 for total yards. I'll probably adjust that and throw it into a parlay and put him at 225 and the Eagles money line, and then maybe Pacheco over 20 yards or something like that and get some good value there. And then as far as the total go, oh, and one other player prop that I like was DeAndre Hopkins. I think they are going to try to utilize him in this game, and his number is 1.5 catches. I think he's going to go get at least 2 catches in this game. I do think. I mean, this is a big deal for this guy who's never played in a Super Bowl before. I think they're going to try to get him the ball, and really, with all the different things they do with Xavier Worthy, jet sweeps and having him sometimes in the backfield. And I think DeAndre Hopkins might be more of a reliable sort of third down, just traditional receiver for Mahomes. I think he might catch a handful of passes in this game. So 1.5 seems very doable for that number. So those are my player prop thoughts. Hopkins, Pacheco, and probably Kareem Hunt. And then Super Bowls are weird in the way the, usually the first quarter is spent feeling out the opponent. These teams haven't played in 2 weeks, and there's all the nerves in the world, all the pressure in the world, and so usually the first quarter is pretty low scoring. I don't know what the number is for total for the first quarter, but I would say the first quarter is probably going to be spent feeling these two teams feeling each other out. Now, if both offenses are rolling in the first quarter, then this is going to be a high scoring game. But it's at 48 right now, the total for the game, or it was last time I looked. Um, I think it's probably going to go over that because I think even though they might start off kind of slowly, I think these offenses will get rolling, especially in the second half, but probably in the second quarter. I think the second and fourth quarters will probably be higher scoring. Um, and so I do think, given all the talent on both of these teams, that number is. I'm not usually big on total bets unless I'm just throwing it in with a parlay, but I do see this one going over. I mean, I could see this one ending up like a 31-28, or I don't know, 34 to 31. Yeah, I think 48 is. I think it'll go over that. I mean, if I'm picking the what I really think the final score would be, I'd probably say something like, I don't know, 30 to 27, maybe something like that. Which, hell, would that be under? No, that'd still be over. That'd still be, yeah. But yeah, I think both of these teams will get up to the upper 20s. So yeah, that should go over. Um, anyway, so those are my thoughts, and I didn't really take the time to put together a parlay for you guys like I often do. But you can take some combination of that. Like, probably what I'll do would be something like Patrick Mahomes over 225, DeAndre Hopkins over 1.5 catches, the Chiefs to win, and then maybe throw in that Pacheco number, or maybe the Kareem Hunt number. But throw that in there as well. So those are my thoughts on, and any combination of those is going to probably get you some good value. But overall, my biggest dollar is going to be going on the Chiefs, either money line or if the spread is only 1 to 1.5, I'll probably take that depending on the value and what the difference is between the money line. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Now we've got some other stuff to talk about with the Lakers, the Titans, the Grizzlies, and whatever else is going on in the world of sports. I'm gonna try to find somewhere to stop and look at my notes, and then we'll go from there. I'll be right back. All right, hey friends, welcome back. Probably should have done that before I came back, but I was taking a drink of coffee there. Um, so we'll get to the trade of the century here momentarily, but first, want to talk about some current events, some very recent news, which was the NFL honors were last night. And full disclosure, I didn't watch it. I never really do. I'm not big on award shows in general, and so I don't know. It's just a weird thing to me. And I guess unless there's a reason for me to be watching it, like that year when I felt like Vrabel was probably going to win Coach of the Year, and I only watched it, I think, up to that point, and it was one of the first awards they announced. Speaking of Coach of the Year, I'm very glad to see Kevin O'Connell won that. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Jaden Daniels obviously won. Rookie of the Year. That was, probably the most predictable. Um, Pat Surtain, good for him. He got Defensive Player of the Year, and I'm glad because it's felt like he's kind of been overshadowed for most of his career. He was the second corner taken in that draft, and if I'm not mistaken, the Titans had the opportunity to draft him. I can't remember, but I remember I really wanted him that year. But Sauce Gardner has been the star from that draft, and it's good to see Pat Surtain finally getting some recognition as not only an elite corner but the best defensive player in the league according to the awards this year. So that was pretty cool. Saquon wins Offensive Player of the Year. Joe Burrow won Comeback Player of the Year. Excuse me, but the big one was obviously MVP, and excuse me. And my this morning and on my drive to work, I listened to sports radio and watched sports TV, and there was obviously a lot of debate about this one. And I actually read a really good article on the Ringer by a voter, an All Pro and MVP voter, explaining her decision because she was one of the 9 voters who chose Lamar Jackson as first team All Pro, but chose uh, Josh Allen as the MVP. She really explained her logic very well in it, and it made a lot of sense. And because I know on the surface it seems like, okay, how can one guy be the best be the best quarterback in the league, but the other is the MVP? That just on the surface doesn't make a ton of sense. But really, the whole MVP thing is just so vague, and it's so subjective and up to interpretation as to what valuable means. Are we talking about the most valuable player into the league, the most valuable player to his team, the best player in the league? It's so vague, and so it's so subjective and open to interpretation on who deserves this award, who wins this award, and by the logic explained, I wish I could remember her name, but the voter who wrote the article in the Ringer, it was very very sound logic. She wrote that she voted for Lamar as first team All Pro quarterback, but given all that Josh Allen meant to the number 2 seed in the AFC, given that all he excuse me his value to his team, and both teams, were 2 of the top teams in the NFL, and he meant more to the Bills essentially than, maybe what Lamar meant to the Ravens. And it's, I'm sure, not by much, because without Lamar, the Ravens are obviously not nearly the great team that they have been, but I think Derrick Henry's presence and the good receivers they have now on the Ravens, their presence, I think, kind of hurt Lamar's MVP candidacy because Josh Allen basically was doing this with James Cook and uh, not as good as we thought. Amari Cooper and Khalil Shakir. I mean, and not to mention, I think the most impressive thing about Josh Allen's season was the thing that has defined this guy's career up to this point is he's been really Brett Favre-esque in that he will make the unbelievable eye-popping plays that win you the game, but he will also make some stupid plays that lose you the game. You kind of lived and died by him, and it was a lot of turnovers. He was going to throw a lot of interceptions, but he has so dramatically changed this year. I mean, I think he didn't throw an interception for like the first 4, 5, 6 games. I don't remember what it was, but the first several games of the season did not turn the ball over. And for a guy who that's sort of what he was known for, to become now incredibly efficient and to lose his all pro number one receiver and get even better and have an MVP season. I mean, I just think that was sort of what put him over the top was that he was the most valuable player on the number two seed in the AFC, and he was doing it with less. And he meant more. He was more responsible for the success of a great team than the other guy was. And I get that logic. I really do. And I'm happy for Josh Allen. I'm not going to cry for Lamar, who already has two MVPs, and he'll be just fine. Um, And I still wonder when these votes are due because I don't think they actually place the votes until sometime during the playoffs. But it would be no, they're only supposed to consider the regular season, but if you were looking at the playoffs as well, then I think you gotta consider Josh as having a better playoff performance than Lamar did. But I know that's not supposed to be factored in, so I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I'm happy for Josh Allen. He has been one of the best quarterbacks, one of those top tier guys, one of those quote elite guys for the last several years. And it's good that he is now in that exclusive elite company of MVP players. So very happy for him. And now I'm going to take another quick break and I'll be right back. All righty, friends, welcome back. So I know that several days have passed now, and so it's all kind of sunk in by this point by the time I get to talk about it on here. But Luka Doncic has been traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis as well as some other players moving around. Um, I'll tell you, I I woke up Sunday morning and I do this a lot, especially on football nights when there's a game on, a Sunday night game, a Monday night game. Um, and I'll watch the rest of the game in the morning. And so I try not to look at my phone too much because I don't want to ruin it. And I've started doing that some with basketball as well. So I woke up Sunday morning and I watched the rest of the Lakers game from the night before. And it was the game where they beat the Knicks in the Garden. And it was a incredible performance from LeBron, of which he had another one last night. Um, and so I watched the rest of this game. I've been awake now for an hour or so. I don't know, before I really looked at my phone. And I look at my phone and there's all this stuff. And the first thing I saw, though, wasn't the news, it was a text from a friend of mine. And I was like, what? That can't be real. And I said, what? How is that possible? Who could they have possibly given up for him? And he told me Anthony Davis. And I was like, what? Okay, I got to dig into this. And so then that's when I start looking through all the news notifications and looking things up. And I just, like everyone else, could not wrap my head around it. I mean, this dude is already probably one of the three best players in the sport and is only 25. Five times already all in first team all NBA. I mean, this was mind-boggling. And it was just like, as a still a Laker fan, and I still feel a little conflicted about that because I'm very much a Tennessee loyalist. I'm Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball, Tennessee Titans football. Um, I feel like these teams are based in these regions for a reason. Now, obviously, you can pick any team you want to root for, but I just feel like it means more if you're rooting for your local area or state team. But because I was such a huge Kobe Bryant fan when I was a kid, I was just a Lakers fan. And plus, there's not really an NBA team that's close to me. I mean, really, the closest one is Atlanta, and I'm not going to be a Hawks fan. But because the Grizzlies are based in Memphis, I've also been sort of a Grizzlies fan, but they're just never really good enough to earn the fandom of someone who really lives like 6 hours away and already has a team that he roots for. And so, anyway, I'm a Lakers fan, despite the fact that I've never been west of like Texas. Um, and so this was just like, and I remember I've talked to my cousin a lot about this, and we've talked about if there was any way for the last few years, if there was any way that Luka could ever become a Laker. I mean, him in particular, like he's been one of my favorite players. I think my cousin likes him even more. But like, if there was one player that we could think, would be the future of that franchise, it had been him. He was the guy we had pictured. Um, and so the fact that this happened is just still sort of surreal and insane. And then all the news starts coming out about his conditioning and his commitment and blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like they're kind of trying to justify this. And I mean, there's got to be real reason there. It's still, for days after the trade happened, it still felt like there's more to this than we know. There's just no way that you let go of a friggin' diamond, a 25-year-old MVP level player and and you just don't do that at all. But to do it when you're already in win now mode, and to do it for in exchange for an older injury riddled player, it was just like I still think it's absurd. And I saw this stuff too about how the title odds changed. And on ESPN, most of the experts on there were laughing about it and saying that's absurd, and they're just trying to get sucker bets. But the odds changed drastically for both the Lakers and the Mavericks. The Lakers' odds got significantly better to win the championship this year, and Dallas's odds got a little worse. And people, though, all the experts were saying, "Oh, that's ridiculous," and no, this is a move for the future for the Lakers. And some idiots were even saying that Dallas won this trade, and they're going to be better in the short term. And look, here's what I was saying to my TV in response to that is like, look, these people are sorcerers. These guys in Vegas know shit that I don't know, shit that even you don't know. They know what they're doing, and they do not put this stuff together lightly. They do not factor in, they're not trying to just get sucker bets. That's not what's happening. They're making these odds with the assumption that LA is going to make another move and acquire a big man and fill that spot. And if they do, then the Lakers definitely could win the championship this year. And I still very much believe that. Now, that's going to get me into the other topic of who they acquired and who they gave up, but we'll dive into that in a second. But no, there is no world in which this can be rationalized or justified from the Dallas perspective. There is no world in which anyone who's not just trying to get attention or be contrarian could say that the Mavericks won this trade. It is just, if you're trying to do that, then you have some motive other than just clear thinking and explanation. No. The Lakers just got a 25-year-old MVP level player. In exchange, they gave up a 30 or 31-year-old guy with one of the worst injury histories of any star player in the league right now, and who has been remarkably healthy for the last 2 years and been really proud of him for that. But a guy with a lot of injury history of his own who's significantly older and significantly worse. And they didn't even get all they could. I mean, the Lakers still had that one first round pick to work with. Now, Max Christie's a good player and looks like he could develop into something, but there is no world in which you can look at this and say Dallas won. I mean, it's just, I do not blame the Mavericks fans in the least for protesting, for burning jerseys or whatever, or for, losing their minds about this. They should. I feel bad for them. I mean, you've got a guy that you believe there's going to be a statue of him outside. You've got a guy that is the face of your franchise and you believe will be for the next decade. You've got a guy, and the team, they decide man, I do. I really feel bad for Mavericks fans in this one because it's sort of like how I feel as a Titans fan right now with a horribly mismanaged organization. It's like we have no say in this. Our loyalty is still to be expected, but there's nothing we can do to prevent these ridiculously horrible moves that the team makes. So, anyway, the Lakers, we thought he was going to premiere for the Lakers on Saturday. ESPN is even doing a special 4 o'clock broadcast of the Lakers and Pacers game on Saturday, but now that's been pushed, or the game, his first game is being pushed to apparently Monday. So hopefully we will get to see him very soon. But man, the future just got so bright out in La La Land. And yeah, it's still kind of crazy to believe. I'm going to take one more quick break and we will dive into some more. All right, hey friends. So I forgot I really didn't get to finish my NBA trade deadline thoughts there because there was a lot of movement. Everything got overshadowed by Luka, obviously, but there was a lot of movement this trade deadline, and I love it. It makes it so much more interesting. Um, Jimmy Butler is finally out of Miami, and what a ridiculous, dramatic, silly saga that was. The fit in Golden State at first seems a little strange, but I mean, if anybody can get the most out of him, it's Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and that organization. So I think he'll be great there. I think they could get the most out of just about anybody. So good for the Warriors for going in and trying to, uh, you know, get continue to win and do what you can while Steph is still Steph. And while you've still got this great core of, well, Clay's gone, but Steph and Draymond are still playing at super high levels. Good for them for trying to make something happen this year. And they didn't even really have to give up that much to get it done. And that's largely because of Butler himself and all the crap all the drama he's created and the demands and the suspensions and all that. But, that's done now. A team that kind of I think got significantly better under the radar was the Spurs. Adding De'Aaron Fox, that's a perfect addition for them. And now that could be the next, Duncan and Parker there. Obviously, two very, very different players, but I mean, that could be the next great duo, Spurs duo. It should be, in fact, with Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. I mean, that could be their duo. Their core should be for the next many years. Both great young players, and I think the Spurs are a team that are getting a lot better, very fast, and they're still outside of the playoff picture right now. But even if they can get in this year, I think they're a team that can make some noise. But man, that team is getting really good, really quick, and they're only going to keep getting better because it's one of the best run franchises in all of sports. Um, and then one that honestly kind of broke my heart, and I was dreading telling the kids about. The Lakers, everyone knew they needed to add another big guy after trading Anthony Davis, but man, I was disappointed for a lot of reasons in who they got, and more so in who they let go. Dalton Knecht, who is a hero here for Vols fans. And to see him go to the team I root for as well in the NBA, it was just so cool. I mean, me and all my kids had Dalton Knecht Lakers shirts. We still do, but yeah, that sucked, man. That sucked. And they gave up him as well as that last first round pick they had. And who else did they give? I don't. Who cares? Um, but they got a guy who, honestly, I don't know anything about him. I know he went to Duke, and I know I haven't watched a Hornets game in years. So I don't know shit about this guy. But from what I read, it seems like he's athletic and young and has potential, but he also has a lot of injury problems. So, and everything I read, pretty much the draft grades said that the Hornets won that one, just like what it seemed on the surface to me. But I guess the Lakers had to make a move. They had to get somebody, and maybe this guy can work out for them in the short term. And I really do hope that they do what they can to match to, even though, now they know at least who's going to be the centerpiece for the future. I really still hope they do what it looks like they are doing, which is try to maximize this Luka and LeBron window, which is probably only like this year, next year. And I mean, it's LeBron. I'm not going to ever bet against him, and he could place at least 45. But I hope they make the most of this and try to win with these two guys together and not just really start preparing for life after LeBron. But it does seem like that's what they're doing. They're really trying to win now and build for the future now, and that's great. Rob Pelinka has really done a great job overall as a GM of this team. And I was skeptical about that, even though, I love Kobe, obviously, and he was his agent, but it was like, what? I don't understand that hire. But he's done a lot of great things. He's done some boneheaded things as well. But overall, I think he's been an outstanding GM. And also, how about JJ Redick as an NBA coach? I mean, he has done a great job with this team. The Lakers are shooting threes better than they have ever, really. They're playing great defense, even without AD. I mean, they played, I think, 3 games without AD now because he was injured, and then they played 2 games after the trade, and their defense has still been great. JJ Redick, I think, has done a very good job as a coach. So. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about in basketball. The Grizzlies also made a trade, my other team, and I still got to say, I don't understand it. They basically paid someone to take Marcus Smart off their roster and gave away their first round pick this year to get rid of him and got a couple of second round picks in return. They also gave Jake LaRavia and got some Marvin Bagley and I don't know, some role players, but it seems like it was pretty much a move to clear up a roster spot and cap space. I don't know. Maybe they're planning on doing something in this whole buyout market. I don't know, man, but that was a head scratcher to me. I still don't understand. And I said all along, I hated that Marcus Smart trade when they made it. I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, he was barely better than one of the players they gave up in the trade, which was Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones was incredible for them. He was perfect for that team. To have a guy that good that you can have come off the bench for and spell John Morant, and also they can play together with Morant at the two. I mean, just giving up Tyus Jones alone in that trade felt like too much for Marcus Smart. Like I hated that trade. And you see it was a colossal failure and now he's gone and they had to pretty much pay somebody to take him. So I don't know. Hopefully the Grizzlies can um continue. I mean, they've been playing really well though. Morant's been on and off the court with injuries, but he hasn't done any stupid shit yet off the court. And hopefully he's matured a little. Jaron Jackson has been one of the more underrated players in the league. It feels like this year he's been outstanding. And right now they're in, I believe, second place in the West. So both the teams I root for are looking damn good right now. So it's a nice feeling. And also, college basketball. The SEC is undoubtedly the best conference in the sport. And I mean, it's just absurd. I mean, SEC basketball is actually better than SEC football right now. Auburn is an absolute juggernaut. The Vols had me worried there for a while because they did not start off league play very well, losing to Vandy, getting blown out by Florida, losing to Kentucky. But they seem to have really gotten back on track lately, and it started when we blew out Florida. We returned the favor. I mean, we didn't beat them. I was saying I hope we beat them by at least 31 because they beat us by 30, but we beat them by 20 something. And we did it without two of our best players, including our best player in Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic, who has quickly become one of my favorite players in basketball. I really love what he's been doing, and I've kind of been waiting, or was waiting for the first month or two of the season because they kept saying this guy's supposed to be a good 3-point shooter, and lately he has been nailing them. He's an excellent rebounder. He is just a great overall player, and we beat down Florida without him and without Ziegler. And now both of those guys are back in the rotation. Chaz Lanier looks like has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. It looked like he might be Connect 2.0, but he's kind of come back down to earth. But then he went into a big slump and looked like he's just completely flopped now. But he has gotten back on track, and it seems like it's kind of where he belongs, where he's still going to be our best scorer, still going to be our best shooter, but maybe not going to be, an SEC player of the year. He's certainly not on the level of Connect, but he is a great player. And this is probably even though we, already had a lot of injuries and guys missing and at least one transfer out. This might be the best team Rick Barnes has had at Tennessee. I mean, this is an elite national championship caliber team. And boy, I tell you, this is the most excited I've been about basketball, both the NBA and college, in a long time. So that's really helped me not feel so bad about football being over. So great for the Vols, great for the SEC, great for the Lakers, great for the Grizzlies. If you're a me, which I know that's a weird combination of fandoms, I guess, to have, but I'd say probably a lot of people. I mean, hell, I know myself, one of my closest friends and my cousin, who's really like my brother, they're both Lakers fans as well, strangely enough. Well, my cousin, it makes more sense because we grew up together, but one of my closest friends is also a Lakers fan as well. So, it's not a super rare combination, but I have the weird combination of, Vols fan, Lakers fan, Grizzlies fan. So, whatever. Anyway, it's good to be fans of those teams right now. And so, yeah, it looked like the Vols were maybe a little overrated. We were number one there for a couple of weeks, and then league play started, and we started screwing around. But it seems like we have really figured things out. And honestly, I think losing Ziegler for that Florida game was the best thing that could have happened. And I even said, look, I thought we were going to lose that one because I remember what it was like when Ziegler got hurt a couple of years ago and how the team just fell apart. And so I even told my cousin, I was like, if I could bring myself to do it, this would be a time to take Florida as an underdog. I'm glad I didn't do that now, obviously, but the reason I say I think it was the best thing that could have happened is this team figured out how to play without him. They had become far too Ziegler centric on offense. It was, and you saw it again a little bit in that Missouri game, night before last, I think it was, where it's just he dribbles around too much and we're not moving the ball enough, and we had become kind of too dependent on him to just make things happen, and we didn't have that option in the Florida game. But th- they moved the ball around. Gainey had a great game. Lanier had a good game, and I think being without him for that game really showed us, okay, this is how we need to win. This is how we need to get back to playing. Not just having Ziegler dribble around for 15 seconds and then, do whatever, but also what's still baffling to me, and we finally started to change a little bit, and well, we did change in the Florida game and in the second half of the Missouri game. I have never seen a basketball team in my life that does less in transition than the Vols. I do not understand it, but it's like every time there is a rebound and Ziegler gets the ball, it could be 3-on-1, and he's going to dribble it up to the lane and then bring it back out every time and then let everybody catch up. I do not understand it. But we were not doing that against Florida. Without Ziegler on the floor, we were running in transition and we were scoring buckets and getting fouls and making things happen. And then we were losing in the first half of that Missouri game. And then in the second half, it was like they made a deliberate effort to start pushing the pace in transition for the first time all year with Ziegler. And you saw what happened. We came back from, we were like down 11, I think, in the second half at one point. And we came back and won that game. And it was in large part because we actually started to push the pace a little bit for the first time all year. So hopefully that's something else that they are going to now start doing more of. So I'm really excited about what Tennessee can be. I was feeling a little discouraged there for a week or two, but after these last couple of games, now with Milicic and Ziegler healthy, Lanier back on track, Gainey being, maybe the sixth man of the year. Um, Akpara didn't have a great game against Missouri, but he's a good player. Cade Phillips, I absolutely love him. He is an outstanding big. I mean, and Meshack, who is one of the best, if not the best, perimeter defender in the SEC, maybe the country, and has also added some offense to his game this year to where he can at least be, they can't just leave him completely alone anymore. So I mean, this team is stacked. This team can win it all. And so it's very exciting to be a Vols basketball fan. I'm going to take one more quick break, I think. Then we'll dive into maybe some Titans. All right, friends, welcome back. So I have been so disappointed in the Titans lately that I don't even know how to really talk about them. I mean, you guys know I was shocked when they fired Mike Vrabel. I was not one of the idiots that was saying that should happen. Um, and then I was not quite equally as shocked, but I was very surprised and disappointed when they fired Rand Carthon this past off season. And then they go into this weird GM hire where they're not really looking for a GM because Chad Brinker is really the GM, but so we're just going to look for a head scout and call him the GM. And it's like, what the hell are these people doing? They don't know what they're doing as an organization. I mean, and it's funny because up until like 3 years ago, I think Amy Adams had been thought of as one of the better, at least not one of the bad owners in the league because she was pretty hands off. It seemed like she didn't insert herself, she didn't get in the way, but she has been doing that lately. And it seems like she's been picking one new favorite every season and allowing that guy to get in her ear and then firing others because of it. It seemed like John Robinson had her ear, and then it was Mike Vrabel had her ear, and John Robinson's fired, as he should have been. I still hate John Robinson with a red hot flaming passion. But then it became, now it's supposed to be Vrabel's running the show, but he doesn't get his pick for GM. They bring in Rand Carthon, and it seems like Rand Carthon's now kind of got the owner's ear. And what do? They fire Mike Vrabel inexplicably. The guy who had become, since the hottest, most desirable coaching candidate on the market, and now is probably where he wanted to be all along. So good for him, going to the Patriots and getting to really start over there with a good young quarterback and a lot of cap space and some draft capital. Um, and but anyway, I got off top. But then, it went from Robinson to Vrabel to Carthon, and now it seems like it's Chad Brinker who's got her ear. And so he gets her to fire Rand Carthon and basically give him all the authority in the organization. And it's just like this team doesn't know what they're doing, and this owner is just making impulsive, over the top, unnecessary decisions and firings based on, who she's listening to that season. And I don't know how you have any sort of faith in an organization like that. But all of that stuff aside, let's just assume, or let's just hope for the sake of argument and my fandom, that Tennessee is going to get back to some level of competency at the top. We have the number one pick for the first time in several years, which, by the way, it kept irritating me. I kept seeing on these articles that this is the first time the Titans have had the number one pick since the 70s. That's not true. The Titans had the number one pick back in, I think it was 2014, but they traded it and got a massive haul. They traded it to the Rams, and the Rams took Jared Goff. So this will be the first time that we have and taken, used, or assume, we're going to assume we're going to use the number one pick since Earl Campbell, but that was just annoying me because it was clearly people, national media who pay no attention to Tennessee and don't seemingly even do their research anymore, just copying each other. But anyway, this is maybe not the best year to have the number one pick and need a quarterback, but that doesn't matter. The NFL draft and scouting is still somehow a very inexact science. And I've talked about this before. With as much as things have advanced, with all the science and metrics and everything has advanced so far, it seems like the draft is as much of a crapshoot as it ever was. And so, with that being the case, you need to take a chance on one of these guys. My pick, and I've been saying this pretty much all along, would probably be Cam Ward, just because he seems to have more natural talent. Um, but you know what? If you feel like Shador Sanders is the better option, go for it. I'd be fine with it. But do not waste the number one pick on anyone but a quarterback. If you're thinking that you don't want one of these guys, first of all, I don't know what your plan is because you got to have a quarterback if you want to win in the NFL. But if you're not going to take one of these guys, if you're going to try to make some trade or sign Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or Sam Darnold or trot Levis back out there, whatever your plan is, you need to at least get a haul for the number one pick. The Giants and the Raiders would both give you a buttload for that pick. If the Titans stay at number one and take anyone but a quarterback, I'm done. For real. They will have to re earn my fandom. I'm already right on that line. But if they are that foolish, I'm done with them. They have to take either Cam Ward, which is my pick, or Shador Sanders. And look, you can pick them apart as much as you want. Look at it, look at every angle, look at every play, look at every metric, look at every measurement. You're still not going to know because if it was as exact as everybody wants to make it out to be in the scouting and the pre-draft stuff, then Jaden Daniels would have gone number one last year, and C.J. Stroud would have gone number one a couple years prior. We don't know, so take whichever one of these guys you like the best. I think it's Cam Ward, but I don't know any more than anyone else. And try to build a winning team. But you cannot do anything without a quarterback. You just can't. And also, if you have any faith in Brian Callahan as a coach, which I have very little, but if you have any faith in him, then you need to at least give him a chance with a young quarterback. You thought you were doing that with Levis, but it turns out, Levis was, as I thought going into that draft. I said, I do not understand why this guy is being talked about as a first round pick. And then there was a little period there towards the end of his rookie year where he had won me over. But nope, it turns out I was right in my pre draft analysis of him. Um, but give Brian Callahan an opportunity with an actual top tier number one overall quarterback and see what can happen. Because that's what this guy's supposed to be, right? He's supposed to be one of these quarterback gurus, one of these young, modern, offensive minded head coaches. He can't really be successful if he doesn't have a quarterback. So, unless you're just planning on writing this year off as him as a lame duck and us as a rebuild completely, you have to take one of those guys. You just have to. The only alternative, I guess, would be to trade back and then go for Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milrow or somebody, I don't know, in the second round. But Jackson Dart has kind of become the darling of draft analysis lately. I don't really feel like any of those guys are starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Milrow has the talent, but he was never able to put it all together at Alabama, so there's no reason to believe he will at the next level. Quinn Ewers was a guy I was waiting all year. I was thinking he was going to move himself into that number one pick conversation, but he didn't. He has the talent. he'd be the only one that I'd really be okay with them taking that chance on if they wanted to trade back with the Giants or the Raiders and acquire a buttload of picks and then take him in the late first round, early second round. I'd be okay, I guess, because I feel like he has the most potential of those next tier guys. But even that, I would. I mean, if they do that, they're not going to totally lose my fandom like they would if they took Abdul Carter or whoever else. But like I said, I think you have to not outsmart yourself here, not listen to anyone other than common sense and your own, rationale, which should tell you you have to have a good quarterback to do anything meaningful in this league. And there are a couple of guys that might be that. And we have the opportunity to take either one of them. Do it. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on the Titans. I'll take one more quick break and wrap everything. All right, friends, welcome back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience while we haven't had an episode in a month or however long it's been. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for everything. Just to recap, my Super Bowl, I'm picking the Chiefs. I'll take the money line, or if the spread, I'll take the spread at 1.5. I don't know that I'd go any higher than that. I kind of like the over. Yeah, in fact, I do, but I'll probably put it in as part of a parlay and lower it to like 45 or something. I do really like the Isaiah Pacheco number at 19 and a half rushing yards. Just seems silly low to me. And I also think Kareem Hunt will probably get over 45 rushing and receiving. And I think DeAndre Hopkins will have at least two catches. I like Patrick Mahomes at over 225 yards. I know I didn't do any player props for the Eagles, but that's just because I normally only do those on the team I think's going to win because that's the team I'm paying more attention to. That's the team I expect to have more success. Um, Saquon Barkley, I'm sure will be a huge factor, but his number's like 125 rushing yards, which I'm not going anywhere near that. Um, so yeah, those are my thoughts on the big game. Also gonna have maybe a few friends over at my house on Sunday. If anybody knows me and wants to give me a shout, give me a text. You're not doing anything, let me know. Um, and also, hopefully, the Titans can show some level of competency in the draft. Beyond excited about Luka as a Laker. Really, really heartbroken about Dalton Knecht going to where NBA players go to die in Charlotte. Um, let's see, what else do we have? Oh, super excited about Vols basketball, and this might be the best team Rick Barnes has had. I think that was pretty much it as far as the important stuff to me. So, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. I hope you have a fun and safe Super Bowl. And yeah, we'll be back again soon. Love you. Bye.